go if I go live?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening, Cabinet, and welcome. Do we have any apologies for absence?
None received.
Does any Cabinet member want to declare an interest? Okie doke. Let's move on to the first substantive item on the agenda, the 2023-2024 revenue budget month 5 update. Councillor Callard, I believe you're going to present it to us.
Thank you, Leader. I'm presenting today the month 5 Outturn report. The purpose of this report is to provide Cabinet with an update of the progress of the Council's revenue budget for the 2023-2024 financial year as forecast at the end of month 5, which was August. Part of this contains the budget recovery plan, which addresses an increase in non-budgeted costs from the 2023-2024 budget. The report has 5 recommendations that ask the Cabinet to note the overall revenue budget deficit forecast at month 5 of £124,000, to accept the budget recovery plan as detailed in Appendix 3, and also to acknowledge the budgetary risks that are built into the month 5 forecast. In late July, the Cabinet was made aware of an increase in in-year budget pressures. These additional pressures are summarised in the table at 3.11 in the covering report, and further details can be found in Appendix 1. The Cabinet requested that officers respond to the situation to bring us back on track, and following some thorough work by our officers, we're bringing forward the proposals detailed in Appendix 3. And the Cabinet will continue to monitor our performance against these proposals to ensure that these savings are delivered. And I'd like to ask Cabinet to endorse this report.
Thank you, Councillor Callard. Before I bring in questions from Councillor John, Councillor Richard, Councillor John, good to see you online. I was worried for a moment you couldn't reach us. Does anybody in Cabinet want to comment on this report? Councillor John.
Thank you, Leader, and apologies, I was having some technical issues joining the meeting. I've got 3 questions on this report, if that's okay. The first question is to you, Leader. Can the Leader please explain why the finance portfolio has been divided between 2 councillors? Obviously has a direct bearing on this report and obviously our budget process that we're about to go into.
I'm glad you brought that up, Councillor John, because it has a direct and I believe very positive bearing on the outcome and process of the budget. I know, and you know too, how much I've respected the work we did in the previous council, along with the leader of the Labour group, the then leader, Councillor Petroni, on ensuring that we had a gender-balanced council, in which we did. And during that process, you, as well as Councillor Dimitri, made it clear how you saw job shares as a very positive way of encouraging diverse and younger members to join the council. And indeed, that's what happened in both our groups and in the independent group as well. To my mind, our Cabinet has been enriched by the inclusion of Councillor Callard, working very closely with Councillor Gareth on the job share. The job share, as you know, is also strongly supported by the Electoral Commission, by the Welsh Government and various bodies on how we increase participation. I believe I'm very lucky and very honoured to have such a skilled and qualified Labour group from which I can select Cabinet members, and I want to make sure that those skills are used wisely by the council, and I believe the job share has actually enhanced our ability as Cabinet to deal with this very challenging circumstances that the council, along with every other council in Wales, finds itself. So I believe you've got 2 more questions for Councillor.
Thank you. I have two further questions for Councillor Callard, if that's okay. The first is, what action is the administration taking to avoid the warning that the leader gave a few weeks ago that the authority is on course to be bankrupt within 3 years.
Before I bring it to Councillor Callard, can I first congratulate you and your group for your excellent videos editing skills? But that's not the warning I gave at Scrutiny Committee, which anyone can see if they look at feedback. It was a question asked by the chair, a very good question to ask. I merely pointed out, as I should do as leader, that we're very conscious of the challenges facing us, not just in this year, but all years, and that it is our duty and our responsibility to indicate what might happen, but we are an administration that takes our responsibilities, our fiscal responsibilities, very seriously. And we will deal with the serious challenges we meet. And I'm absolutely confident that we will manage this year, manage next year, manage the following year to present a balanced budget to the council. Come on in, Councillor Callard.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you for the question, Councillor John. I think the leader did a reasonable job there of covering it, actually, but I would add that you know, a local authority which has the power to raise revenue and also to control its costs, you know, is able to you know, with those controls, can control its financial situation, and so we do, as we have done in the past, as your previous administration did. We will set a balanced budget. We will continue to set balanced budgets, and cost pressures that come to the council, as they will do and have always done, will be dealt with in the normal budgeting process. So I would reassure residents of Monmouthshire that this council is not at risk of going bankrupt.
Okay, thank you. And my third question was about the points that were cited in the report about the cost of the universal free school meals and tackling homelessness commitments. And I was wondering what representations the administration's made to the Welsh Government about the level of insufficient funding to deliver on those two policies, please.
The administration has had meetings with Welsh Government ministers on which this subject has been raised. We've highlighted that we're very proud of the quality and the cook from scratch ethos that we have, especially in our primary schools, but that, as you rightly say, the money provided by Welsh Government does not currently meet all of our costs on that, and we will continue to lobby them on that subject and on the subject of meeting our costs borne by homelessness.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to add there, Councillor John, having just received the homelessness figures about half an hour ago, on the one hand, I'm still sobered by the fact that we have homelessness in Monmouthshire and the cruelty of that situation. On the other hand, I'm heartened by the fact that, given our housing transition plans and other preventative measures we put in, we are seeing the lowest number in bed and breakfast since 2020, and we are seeing a downward trend in the number of people presenting homeless within our county, and we're seeing an upward trend in our ability to deal with homelessness in a timely manner. And I'm really pleased by the efforts that our officers have put in to get us to this position, and long may it happen, despite the fact that much of the factors that are causing homelessness are outside of our control. So we can't predict how the figures will be over winter, but it is a partially good news story. Do we have Councillor Taylor online? Yes, we'll give Councillor.
She's just sent a message now to me. I'll try and call her into the meeting.
Would you like to say something before Councillor Taylor?
Yeah, it's With reference to the discussion that we've just had, we've got a report which is showing how we're managing the in-year pressures, and they will be managed well. I would like to see a situation where within this council and throughout the British local government community, we could remove this reference to the word bankrupt from our lexicon. Yeah. It has been used in recent years, I think, very lazily by journalists I once respected. I'd like them to stop using it. The truth, as I understand it, is that there is no possibility of any local authority going bankrupt. Bankruptcy means that it's in a situation where the debtors will not be paid. That's the meaning of bankrupt in the law. That has never happened, and I would say could never happen in the case of a local authority. It is possible, and it has been precedented in rare circumstances, for a local authority to be in a position where it is not able to declare or to agree or to manage a balanced budget. The response to that situation is not bankruptcy. It is not debtors going unpaid. The response to that situation always has been that central government judges the situation and sends in persons to manage that authority as an alternative to the elected councillors. That could happen. There's even provision in the existing law for councillors to invite it to happen. But it is not bankruptcy. And in order to lessen public fears, there are leaflets circulating my town at the moment warning that Monmouthshire are about to go bankrupt. Can we please agree that it is in no one's interest for us or anyone else in British local government to be using that term? Thank you.
You raise an excellent point, Councillor Griffiths. It is disappointing that that term is used, and generally speaking, because at a moment when we should all be pulling together across the council in a situation that is so serious, not just for councils, I think more importantly for the residents, and the people who work for us, the last thing we should be doing is raising panic. And there is no need for panic. We are managing and we will continue to manage. Councillor Taylor, I'm glad you were able to get online. Would you like to ask your questions?
Thank you, Leader. Just give me a moment. Sorry, I've only just gone by. Sorry, I don't seem to have received a link to Cabinet, and when I went in to join, I couldn't do that. So, yeah, sorry, apologies. I just couldn't get in. So I just messaged several people to send me the link. So just one moment while I just bring my questions up. Apologies. Thank you. Sorry, I found them. So my question, are we asking them one by one, Councillor Brocklesby, or are you asking us to ask them all in one go?
As long as you stick to the question, Councillor Taylor, then one by one is perfectly acceptable.
I always do, Councillor Brocklesby. Noting the reference to a hike in negotiated care provider fees, could you please clarify that this is simply reflective of the costs incurred by providers in maintaining vital care services at home?
I'm going to take your questions, Councillor Taylor, as they all relate to social care. So on the hike in care provider fees, I mean, the increase in cost of care during 2022-2023 reflects the wider economic pressures of high inflation that's pushed up prices that we all experience. But it also needed to take into account the increases in the national living wage, which was 9.7% from April 2023. So clearly this has led to higher than usual increases in provider fees that were required in order to maintain service quality and capacity. But I'd also like to just sort of go a bit further on my answer to that question, just to give it more context, is just to reassure you and others listening that the fee negotiation process requires providers to submit full cost breakdown and profit transparency to ensure that we're paying a fair price for care and that there is value for money for public funds.
Thank you. Can I just say that you just were speaking about language being very important, and that's why I think I was slightly concerned at the note at the word hike, and perhaps that's not a useful term, given that clarification. So thank you very much.
Councillor Taylor, can I ask you to move on to question 2, please?
There is a budgeted shortfall against the there is a shortfall against the budgeted savings targets in adult social care. This target was reduced during the budget process. Could you outline, please, why the anticipated lower levels of savings has not proved achievable?
Again, as you know, demand for social care services remained high since the pandemic. And with our ageing population presenting ever more complex needs. And this factor, along with the economic issues that are pushing costs up, make it difficult for us. And the service is engaged in a number of work streams to manage the spend, and that includes that daily scrutiny of all new care packages, daily scrutiny of all new care packages and placements to ensure the offer of support is proportionate and equitable, following a robust strength-based assessment. Secondly, the review of existing care packages to identify needs that may have changed or to find alternative ways to support, such as technology or equipment. Third is bolstering links to preventative community-based resources to identify alternative support options. Fourthly, we're working closely with health within acute settings to facilitate faster hospital discharges with reablement support to ensure packages are right-sized. And fifth, we're expanding our reablement service to work alongside occupational therapists and physios to deliver short-term interventions that support independence and reduce the need for long-term need. Those are what we're doing, and we're determined to undertake an approach to achieving savings proposals carefully that sort of minimise the impact on individuals and almost on a case-by-case basis. And we're doing it in this way, but it does take time, as I'm sure you can appreciate. It's not something that's going to get an instant result, particularly, by taking that, making sure that each individual is looked at, as I said, on a case-by-case basis. And then the other factor that we also need to recognise that there are delays in achieving savings proposals because of the requirement to implement whole system practice changes at the same time as responding to high demand service. So it puts pressures on us to do that. So in essence, yes, we are not achieving the savings at the pace that we would have liked to achieve, but actually we are making progress in the right direction, and we're pushing as hard as we can in a way that actually protects individuals.
In the budget commentary, the service pressures in adult social care, or some of them, are being offset by significant underspend in My Day, My Life and Care at Home. What is the impact on service delivery?
Well, two different things there. So the underspend on My Day, My Life is as a result of the reduction in demand over recent years. So there's no impact upon service delivery due to the underspend because all people assessed as needing support are being supported. The care at home underspend is a result of staff vacancies. Capacity is not limited to in-house provision, and it is supplemented by commission providers in order for us to maintain the levels of service that are required.
Thank you, Councillor Chandler, and thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Callard made it clear that we had 5 recommendations, which he read out to us at the beginning of his presentation, so I'm not going to read it again. Are we happy with these recommendations and to go forward with this report, Cabinet? Yeah. Thank you. Let's move on to the next item, which is the regulation of the Investigatory Powers Act and REPA. We have online Gareth Edwards, who is the solicitor and acting officer responsible for REPA. This is an annual report to Cabinet, which seeks to the review and approval of a policy which we are required, and as well as informing the outcome of the last inspection. So let me just give you background. The Regulation and Investigatory Powers Act, the REPA, is the main piece of UK legislation which controls how public authorities exercise their powers to conduct certain types of covert surveillance. REPA regulates just how we go about exercising such powers in the context of serious criminal investigations. These include investigations for most trading standard offences, as well as offences of fraud, food hygiene, fly tipping, and health and safety. REPA provides a two-stage sign-off process for any proposed use of the powers by both the senior council officer as well as Justice of the Peace in the Magistrates' Court. Both sets of authorisations need to be given in writing and in advance of any proposed use of the powers. So in addition, Cabinet, to sign off, any authorisations need to be actively reviewed by the Council and withdrawn when no longer deemed necessary. The purpose of this sign-off process is to ensure that the exercise of covert surveillance powers is both a necessary and proportionate limitation on a person's right to privacy under Article 8 of the European Convention of Human Rights. If we as a council fail to comply with these provisions, we run the risk of having any criminal evidence gathered through covert surveillance being ruled inadmissible by a court of law. Under Home Office guidance, the council is required to maintain a formal written policy outlining its internal support procedures for ensuring compliance with REPA. The policy needs to be reviewed and approved by council members once a year. We're also subject to periodic inspection by the Investigatory Powers Commissioner's Office, the IPCO, to ensure compliance, and this has been done in the past. Home Office guidance requires council members to be informed of the outcome of any inspection. Under MCC's REPA policy, Cabinet, we are the organ for member review and approval, and to which the outcome of inspections is to be reported. And a separate annual report is going to be presented to the Governance and Audit Committee in the coming months, reporting on the recent use of REPA authorisations. So this is an extremely and serious important document which provides for the way that we work in very difficult circumstances. So what I would be asking is that we approve this document as per the proposed amendments within the course, and we note the recent IPCO inspection report, which is also in your document pack. Are we agreed, Cabinet?
Yeah.
I would then move us on to the next item on the agenda, the Public Services Ombudsman for Wales annual letter. That's over to you, Ms. Sanders.
Thank you, Leader. This item is about the annual letter which the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales sends to all local authorities about complaints. There are two recommendations that Cabinet note the content of the Public Sector Ombudsman for Wales annual letter, which is in Appendix 1, and inform the PSOW of their considerations and any proposed actions. And the second one is that the authority continues to engage with the PSOW complaints standards work. As colleagues will be aware, we have two complaints processes, one covering social services and one covering all the other services. Internally, the effectiveness of these arrangements are overseen by the Governance and Audit Committee. If residents are not satisfied with the way we handle their complaint, they're able to go to the Public Service Ombudsman for Wales to seek redress. The Ombudsman is concerned with maladministration causing injustice. They will normally require complainants to have used their local council's procedures before accepting a complaint for investigation. Each year, they write to the leader, giving an overview of complaints they've received and ask us to present this at Cabinet and Governance and Audit Committee. The Ombudsman received 23 complaints about Monmouthshire County Council during 2022-23. This is 3 more than each of the previous 2 years. To put this figure in context, 23 complaints equates to 0.25 complaints for every 1,000 Monmouthshire residents. This is the 4th lowest figure in Wales. The range was 0.17 up to 0.49 per 1,000 residents. So we are right at the lower end of the scale. Of those complaints, the Ombudsman decided to intervene in 1 case and was able to reach early resolution with this complaint. In the previous year, there were 2 cases requiring Ombudsman interventions. Both years were lower than the average figure across Wales, which indicates that our complaints processes are working relatively well. However, we are not complacent, and officers are working with the Chair of Governance and Audit Committee to improve oversight, ensuring that we are well placed to learn and improve how we do things. Thank you, Cabinet. And we have 1 question from Councillor John. If you'd like to read that out, Councillor John.
Thanks, Councillor Sandler.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering what reasons the Cabinet member thinks there are for the rise in complaints that we've seen against the Council in the last year, please.
Thank you, Councillor John. The most important thing to note here is that the Ombudsman has not needed to intervene in more cases than they did in previous years. If we start to see that happen in future, then it could indicate that our in-house procedures and processes aren't working as well as expected. An increase in the number of complainants feeling they need to contact the Ombudsman is something that we monitor really closely. A change from 20 to 23 complaints isn't significant, but we do need to be sure that this isn't part of a longer-term trend. Our own data shows that overall, the number of complaints received by the authority, the whole authority that is, reduced from 214 in 2020 to 2021, down to 138 in 2022-23. The numbers of social services complaints are unchanged over the same period. I hope that helps clarify and answer your question, Councillor John.
Thanks, Councillor. Any comments or observations, Cabinet? I draw your attention then to the recommendations, which again, Councillor Sandler read out. Are we agreed to note the content and we continue to engage?
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Thank you very much, Cabinet. That brings the meeting to a close. Thank you for attending online.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.